Hi, it's Joe Mazumdar, the editor and analyst of Exploration Insights at the January virtual Metal Investor Forum, the first one of 2021. And with me, I have GBM Resources, which is GBZ or GBZ on the ASX. And with me today, I've got Managing Director Peter Rohner and Technical Advisor Stephen Nano that are going to talk to us about the company. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, GBZ or GBM Resources did really well last year. It had a returned about well over 300% for 2020, easily beating gold price and the GDXJ, which were more about 25 to 30%. So that was coming off of a very low valuation, but you basically did what you said you were going to do. So let's go through how you generated that return last year in 2020 for GBM.
Okay, Joe, thanks. Look, I think the key thing when we joined GBM about a year ago was really just to have a focused strategy on the Drummond Basin gold assets and make sure that, I suppose, the other assets in our portfolio, were well funded and not a distraction. So, throughout the year, we focused on the Drummond Basin. We started a drill program late in the calendar year and started obviously reviewing the exploration activities. We started to deal with some of our other assets like the Malmesbury asset in Victoria, and we brought Novo in April in a deal there to JV into that project. And then we've kept focused on advancing the other non-core assets like Mount Morgan and then the third item was really bringing the White Dam operation under our wing in the JV in July and commissioning and ramping up that project to generate cash flow for GBM. So I think, we had a strategy, on these areas, and we've basically just been executing the strategy. And we'll talk a little bit later about, obviously 2021, the rest of the elements of the strategy going forward.
So, there's quite a few elements to GBM Resources. You've got the consolidation of the Drummond Basin, and now you're drilling it. And then you've got bringing White Dam up to production, which you guys are doing. And then, basically funding all the other catalysts on things like Malmesbury and potentially looking for a joint venture for Mount Morgan. So from now going forward, what do you think is going to add the value now that people know more about GBM, what it's done? Why should we be investing or looking at GBM going forward?
Yeah, look, it's really a continuation of consolidating the Drummond Basin. So we're still looking at other assets. We landed the Andan acquisition late last year and completed that last week. So now we have obviously that land package and those mining leases and resources in our portfolio.
So if we just get into those resources, so for people that don't know, how much did you have originally with your first claims in the Drummond Basin to now after consolidating a few other projects in the Drummond Basin?
Yeah, so we had 330,000 ounces in JORC resources, predominantly on mining leases over in the Mount Coolon on the eastern side of the Drummond Basin, picking up the Andan resource and mining leases on the western side, added another 520,000 ounces, so we're up to 850,000 ounces of JORC resources. And our aim is to obviously build that through both acquisition and exploration to well over 1 million ounces going forward.
And then, talking about the exploration, like towards the latter part of last year, you started drilling it. And I know, Stephen, you got to site with the drill rigs. And so where are we right now with the drilling there in the Drummond Basin?
Yeah, look, I've got a permanent residence in a donga out there in the Drummond. So quite a number of trips up through the year. We completed the first round of our first initial program just before Christmas. We should be reporting those drill results in the next week or so from drill testing initially at Glendale and also some of the holes in the Koala system. We also initiated a very large geophysical survey of to test what we think is a mineralized trend now that stretches for several kilometres to the southeast of Glenelg. That's partly a step change in knowledge that's come from the drilling, but also consolidation and interpretation of a large historic database. So we've got a number of gold occurrences along that trend, a very large geophysical survey going that was in part funded by a government grant. So approximately $300,000, a $300,000 program there that's funded by GBM, and about $200,000 funded by the government. So it's a very, very extensive 2 and 3D IP survey. We'll be reporting on those results again in the next week or so, or the results to date. The exploration teams will be meeting up in North Queensland next week to get back in the field and restart the exploration programs. Of course, what's happened now with the Yandan acquisition is that we're folding that Yandan project area into the exploration program as well. Yandan not only delivered plus 500,000 ounces in JORC compliant resources to our books through the acquisition, but a number of significant exploration projects that sit around the Yandan main mine area. These are non-epithermal systems that have quite significant historic drill intersections in them, and in fact, in the case of one of them, Ilamata, we may actually be able to convert some of that drilling to a small oxide resource without doing any further work on it. But a very, very busy program planned in the Drummond Basin this year. As Peter's intimated there, we're very active with our acquisition program. That could, if successful, deliver further step changes in the resource base in the relatively near term, we hope. And we'll have an aggressive exploration program that has a program budget here of around about $4 million, which will be targeting primarily drilling, but a lot of surface exploration and geophysics as well. So really very, very busy year in the Drummond. And perhaps we can talk a little bit later about some of the joint venture exploration that's being funded by our partners as well.
Okay, just to get an idea, so in terms of results in the next week or so, how many meters of drilling should we expect from Glendale?
Yeah, look, we've completed about 3,500 meters, and we've reported about half the results to date. So approximately half of those results will be drill intersections from Glenelg itself and from the Koala system. We also got some drilling there completed before the Christmas break.
So drilling going forward at the Drummond Basin, you said a budget about Australian 4 million. How many more meters do you think that you're going to be drilling?
Look, really haven't programmed that in yet because we're still working through the data sets from Yandan to prioritize the targets there. But it's going to be a mixture of near resource drilling in both Yandan and Mount Coolon, and exploration drilling on some of those peripheral targets.
Okay. So before we get to the other, like the Malmesbury and that, and Mount Morgan, let's go back to your other thing that you guys are driving, which is the White Dam heap leach gold and copper deposit down in South Australia. How is that going, Peter?
Yeah, look, we built a small capital project to recover the copper and liberate cyanide in late last year during COVID with no real issues. We commissioned that in July. We've been ramping up production over the last 6 months. The JV formed in July, and we started sharing cash flows in July. Look, it's generating positive cash flows. I've provided a little bit of guidance in the MIF presentation, but there'll be more details in the quarterly report. As I say, we're ramping up gold production still further. We're ramping up copper production. And in the background, we're now, obviously, we've got an option to exercise to buy the project in end of June this calendar year for $500,000, plus picking up the environmental bond. So the other works we're doing in the background is obviously there's a 100,000 ounce JORC resource on the known resources there at the moment, and we're sort of looking at the pit optimisation work to target some additional drilling just to convert some of those resources into reserves, and ahead of making a decision to exercise our option to buy that project, which is, fairly likely at this stage. Can't see anything that would indicate we wouldn't exercise our option, but we obviously need to do a little bit more work.
So in terms of the budget that Stephen was talking about, which is about 4 million for the Drummond Basin, and then potentially this purchase of 500,000, are you guys funded to do all this?
Yeah, look, we're funded to do the Drummond exploration. We're funded to do the White Dam acquisition, and we're probably funded to do one other acquisition in the Drummond Basin. Obviously, off the back of another acquisition, we'd probably go to the market for additional capital. But that'll be subject to that acquisition sort of getting bedded down.
Okay, so these are the things you're funding yourself, but then you've got these other projects that we can quickly talk about, like Malmesbury, which is in the Fosterville district of Victoria, and then Mount Morgan as well. So what's going on with those?
So we have two projects under joint venture at the moment. The Malmesbury that you mentioned there is in JV with Novo Resources, who's funding 100% of the program. Malmesbury, as people who follow the company will know, is a true Fosterville style orogenic gold target, known gold field, surprisingly underexplored. GBM outlined approximately 100,000 ounce resource there. That's very much the top of a system of chutes, but the larger part of the vein fields had very, very little drilling. In fact, very little surface exploration. Novo and the GBM team literally just been in the field last week, and we're programming the budget to move it forward. Last week, we reported on the exploration from the last 6 months. Some fantastic gold results there. Please have a look at the news release and at the MIF presentation. But multi-gram to multi-ounce gold from dump sampling and from outcrop sampling along many kilometres of trend there. So really exciting initial work. The exploration budget for Malmesbury will be in excess of $1.5 million and will include drilling. We're planning to be drill testing there probably in the second half of the year. So the first half of the year is going to be detail mapping and sampling geophysics and soils to program those targets. So the second joint venture is a very large regional play called the Cloncurry joint venture. That's with Nippon Mining and Smelting. That joint venture has been running for a number of years now. They've spent about $16 million there and plan to spend $750,000 over the coming year. So in total, we'll see in excess of $2 million of joint venture spend on top of GBM's budget. So we're looking at in excess of $6 million worth of exploration on our projects this year. That's before any new acquisitions and the potential flow on from that. So a very, very busy year. At the Cloncurry joint venture, it's a geophysics and drill program testing for iron oxide copper gold targets surrounding the world-class Ernest Henry copper gold mine that's operated by Glencore. Other projects that you've mentioned in the books there, obviously we're advanced now on finding a path forward for our Mount Morgan district, which is over 1,000 square kilometres surrounding the world-class Mount Morgan mine in Queensland. That mine is not within our ground, but we have all of the surrounding geology and lots of exciting targets. The mine itself has produced in excess of 7.5 million ounces of gold and 400,000 tonnes of copper. So a true world-class blob of mineralisation that we're looking forward to getting some funding in and moving forward. So
all right.
Aggressive year.
Yes. So, for anybody that's looking at GBM resources, they should be looking at a big portfolio of projects within a small company that's done well last year, delivering, and hopes to do the same in 2021. Well, thank you, gentlemen. And I appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. It's Joe Mazumdar, Exploration Insights from the January Metals Investor Forum virtual conference. Thank you very much for joining us.